When we talk about dominant champions in WWE, a few names immediately come to mind. Legends who didn't just hold a title, but defined an era with their reigns. And in the modern women's division, that conversation has to include Rhea Ripley.
Has been saved by his Mami again.
From the moment she won the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania 39, Rhea didn't just carry the title, she elevated it. Whether it was destroying top contenders, delivering banger matches, or standing at the forefront of the Judgment Day, her reign was must-see television. But as we all know, no title reign lasts forever. So today, we're breaking it all down. From her career-defining victory over Charlotte Flair to the brutal war with Becky Lynch, and of course, the shocking betrayal that led to her downfall. This is the story of Rhea Ripley's World Championship reign.
Star. Rhea Ripley's name will come up. This woman has it all.
Now, every great title reign needs a great beginning. And for Rhea Ripley, that beginning came on April 1st, 2023, at WrestleMania 39. And not just any match. She defeated Charlotte Flair, arguably the most accomplished women's wrestler in WWE history, in a match that many people consider the best women's bout of the entire year. The moment when she won the World Championship title was truly iconic. It kicked off what I consider a new era in women's wrestling. $1 million worth of pyro went off while Rhea stood tall, soaking it all in. And her roar was a declaration that Mami had arrived, and she wasn't going anywhere. To really understand why this victory mattered so much, we have to go back 3 years earlier to WrestleMania 36. In 2020, Ripley walked into WrestleMania as the NXT Women's Champion, a big deal at the time since an NXT title had never been defended on the WrestleMania stage before. She was fresh off an incredible run in NXT, including a major victory over Shayna Baszler to win the championship, and it felt like WWE was about to go all in on her as the next breakout star. But then, Charlotte Flair happened. Charlotte, after winning the Royal Rumble, chose to challenge Rhea for the NXT Women's Championship, a decision that, in hindsight, felt like WWE's attempt to elevate NXT by having its title on a main roster star. What actually happened, though, was a momentum killer for Ripley. Charlotte tapped her out clean at WrestleMania, taking the belt and leaving Rhea in limbo for months. For a while, it felt like Ripley had been derailed. She floated between NXT and the main roster, struggling to regain the same aura she had before that loss.
The Women's World Champion, Rhea!
And even when she finally moved up to Raw full-time, her initial run as Raw Women's Champion in 2021 wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Fans criticized her booking, and her reign ended unceremoniously against Charlotte. But then came Judgment Day. By the time 2023 rolled around, Ripley had reinvented herself in WWE's most dominant faction, the Judgment Day. Her alliance with Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio gave her a whole new edge. No longer was she the hopeful up-and-comer, she was Mami, the ruthless enforcer of the group. And when she won the 2023 Women's Royal Rumble match, she made it clear she was coming for revenge.
Suffered a spear at the hands of Beth Phoenix before this match even started.
Going into WrestleMania 39, Charlotte Flair was still SmackDown Women's Champion, having won the title back from Ronda Rousey in late 2022. And while Charlotte's title reign wasn't the most exciting, everyone knew that when the lights were brightest, the Queen always delivers. This match was no different. From the opening bell, it was pure intensity. These two weren't just looking to put on a show. They were fighting, stiff strikes, high-impact suplexes, and a level of physicality that we rarely see in WWE's women's division. Ripley ragdolled Charlotte at times, but Charlotte fired back with some of the hardest chops you'll ever hear.
Oof, big chop.
The near falls were insane. Charlotte hit a natural selection from the top rope, only for Rhea to kick out at the last second. Rhea locked in the Prism Trap submission, but Charlotte managed to escape. And then, in a moment of desperation, Charlotte hit a devastating spear that looked like it could seal the deal. Charlotte tried to cover the pin, but Ripley kicked out. You could see the frustration on Charlotte's face. She was throwing everything at Rhea, but Ripley refused to stay down. And then came the finish. Rhea hoisted Charlotte onto the top rope, setting her up for something huge. The crowd knew what was coming, and the energy in the stadium skyrocketed. Ripley climbed up, hooked Charlotte's arm, and delivered an avalanche riptide from the second rope. The impact was nasty. Charlotte hit the mat with a thunderous crash, and Ripley immediately covered her. And just like that, Rhea Ripley was the new Women's World Champion. The moment was electric. The fans erupted, and Charlotte, laying outside the ring, looking up at Ripley celebrating, actually smiled. Not in arrogance, but in respect. She knew she had just been in one of the best matches of her career, and more importantly, Rhea had earned it. So why this win was so important? Well, Rhea Ripley didn't just win a title that night. She cemented herself as a main event level star. She defeated Charlotte Flair, the measuring stick of WWE's women's division. She did it on WrestleMania's biggest stage in a match that arguably stole the show. And she proved she wasn't the same Rhea Ripley from 2020. This was a completely different beast. From that point on, Ripley wasn't just another champion. She was the champion. Now, with the SmackDown Women's Championship, which was later rebranded as the Women's World Championship, was in her hands, Rhea Ripley had officially arrived. But Rhea Ripley's title reign wasn't just about her dominance in the women's division. It was also deeply tied to the Judgment Day. Unlike other champions who stand alone, Rhea had the full backing of one of WWE's most dominant factions. And in many ways, she was the driving force behind their success. She played a crucial role in the Judgment Day's feuds, starting with their rivalry against Rey Mysterio and the newly formed Latino World Order. While Dominic tried and failed to take down his father, Rhea made sure the Judgment Day stayed strong, often interfering in matches and asserting their dominance. By the summer of 2023, the group had bigger targets. Finn Balor and Damian Priest pursued the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships, while Rhea started a personal rivalry with Liv Morgan, taking her out with an injury. At Money in the Bank, Priest secured the briefcase, setting up internal tension within the Judgment Day, as Finn struggled to defeat Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. As the months went on, the Judgment Day became the most dominant faction on Raw. By Payback 2023, they held nearly all the gold. Rhea as Women's World Champion, Finn and Priest as Tag Team Champions, and Dominic as NXT North American Champion. But cracks began to show, especially between Finn and Priest, with Rhea often stepping in as the peacemaker. Despite these tensions, they continued to control Raw.
The Judgment Day, we run Monday Night Raw.
Winning high-stakes matches at Fastlane and Payback. However, Survivor Series War Games in November 2023 marked the beginning of the faction's downfall. The Judgment Day lost to a team led by Cody Rhodes, and from there, the infighting only worsened. Priest's Money in the Bank briefcase was a constant source of conflict. Dominic's failures became a liability, and Rhea struggled to hold the group together. By early 2024, things spiraled further. Liv Morgan returned, hell-bent on revenge against Rhea, while Dominic's mistakes became too costly to ignore. At WrestleMania 40, Rhea retained her title against Becky Lynch, but the Judgment Day's internal problems were at an all-time high.
Finn Balor, you are not my brother.
Now, this was all about the Judgment Day and how Rhea played a crucial role in it. But a great champion isn't just measured by winning the title. It's about how they defend it. Holding a championship means one of Rhea's first major defenses came at Crown Jewel 2023, an event known for its high-stakes matches and spectacle. But WWE had a problem. There wasn't a clear #1 contender for Rhea's title. So instead of giving her a traditional one-on-one match, they threw her into a fatal five-way against Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, and Zoey Stark. On paper, a match like this could have been a complete mess. Fatal five-way matches can be chaotic, with too many moving parts and moments that feel forced. But Rhea made it work. She thrived in the chaos and used it as a showcase for her strength and ability to seize the right moment. The match itself was a non-stop brawl, with alliances forming and breaking within minutes. Nia Jax played the role of the unstoppable force, while Raquel and Shayna worked together at points to neutralize the biggest threats. But as the match neared its climax, Rhea took control in the most spectacular way possible. The finish? Pure dominance. Rhea climbed to the top rope with Zoey Stark in position for her avalanche riptide. Instead of just hitting it cleanly, she drove Zoey down onto Raquel and Baszler, taking out multiple competitors at once. With the crowd gasping at the sheer force of the move, Rhea immediately covered Baszler for the win. This wasn't just a title defense, it was a statement victory. She didn't just escape with her championship, she stood tall as the undisputed top woman in the division, overpowering 4 of the toughest competitors WWE could throw at her. Now, after all of this, if there was one title defense that was standing in Rhea Ripley's way, it was Elimination Chamber 2024 in Perth, Australia. Winning the title at WrestleMania was special. Dominating at Crown Jewel was impressive. But defending her championship in front of her home country, that was personal. WWE rarely holds premium live events in Australia. So when it was announced that Elimination Chamber 2024 would take place in Perth, there was only one possible main attraction: Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax for the Women's World Championship. This wasn't just another match. This was Rhea stepping onto the biggest stage of her career, defending her title in front of thousands of fans who had followed her journey since day one. The energy inside the Optus Stadium was absolutely electric. From the moment Rhea's music hit, the crowd exploded in cheers, chanting her name like she was a hometown hero returning from battle. But this wasn't going to be easy. Nia Jax was a massive challenge, literally and figuratively. Standing at 6 feet tall and weighing over 270 pounds, she was one of the few women in WWE who could physically overpower Rhea. And unlike in the Fatal 5-Way, where Rhea had other competitors to create opportunities, this was one-on-one. Jax controlled the early portion of the match, using her size to throw Rhea around like a ragdoll. She crushed her with corner splashes, big slams, and even a Samoan drop on the outside, leaving Rhea reeling in front of her home crowd. But if there's one thing we know about Rhea Ripley, it's that she thrives when the odds are against her. Slowly but surely, she fought her way back into the match, countering a banzai drop with a massive powerbomb, kicking out of a brutal leg drop, fighting through the pain, refusing to go down. The crowd roared with every near fall, desperate to see their hometown hero rise above the challenge. Then came the moment that sealed her legacy. Nia went for the Annihilator, her second rope banzai drop finisher, looking to crush Rhea and end her reign. But Rhea dodged at the last second, sending Jax crashing hard onto the mat. With everything she had left, she hoisted Nia up, a feat that seemed almost impossible given the size difference. And then, in front of her home country, she hit the biggest riptide of her career and immediately covered for the win. Rhea Ripley had conquered Nia Jax in Australia. As she stood tall, championship held high, the moment wasn't just about a successful defense, it was about validation. A young girl from Adelaide had grown into one of WWE's biggest stars, and she had just delivered a match that would be remembered for years. It was the kind of defense that cemented her legacy. Now, I'd have to say, Rhea defended her title quite well. But here's the thing. The longer you go as title holder, the more attention you draw towards yourself. And that is exactly what happened when Becky Lynch came after Rhea. If there was one match that truly defined Rhea Ripley's legacy, it was her showdown with Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 40. Rhea had already proven herself against some of the best in WWE history, but there was always one lingering question. Could she defeat the man on the grandest stage of them all? By early 2024, Rhea Ripley had dominated the Women's World Championship scene for nearly a year. She had taken on every challenger thrown her way and walked away with the gold still around her waist. But despite all her success, there was one thing missing: a career-defining rivalry with a true icon of the women's division. And then came Becky Lynch. Becky wasn't just a former champion, she was a formidable rival, the first woman to win a WrestleMania main event, a multiple-time world champion. And if Rhea Ripley wanted to cement her place at the top, she had to go through Becky. The tension between them had been building for years. Back in 2019, Rhea and Becky had faced off in NXT, but the match ended in a no contest due to outside interference. There was no real conclusion, just a tease of what could be. But nearly 5 years later, the time had come for the real fight. WrestleMania 40, the man versus Mami, a match that had been years in the making. The stage was set, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. From the moment their entrances hit, you could feel that this wasn't just another match. This was a collision of generations. As soon as the bell rang, Becky came out fast, using her technical skill and speed to try and keep Rhea off balance. She knew she couldn't overpower Ripley, so she had to outsmart her, but Rhea was too strong. Every time Becky built momentum, Rhea shut her down with raw power. Every time Becky found an opening, Rhea closed it with a devastating counter. At one point, Becky managed to counter an early riptide into a disarm her submission, nearly forcing Rhea to tap in the opening minutes. But Rhea powered through, lifting Becky off the mat and slamming her into the corner to break the hold. She followed up with brutal suplexes and stiff strikes, showcasing just how dominant she could be when pushed to her limits. But Becky was never one to back down. She fought her way back, hitting a manhandle slam on the apron that sent Rhea crashing to the floor. The impact was nasty, and for the first time in the match, it looked like Rhea might be in trouble. Becky dragged her back into the ring and went for another manhandle slam, but Rhea countered at the last second, shoving Becky into the turnbuckle spine first. This was the beginning of the end. With Becky dazed in the corner, Rhea hoisted her up and launched her into the turnbuckle with a thunderous riptide. Becky collapsed to the mat, completely out of it. But Rhea wasn't finished. She picked Becky up one last time, lifted her into the air, and delivered a massive riptide in the center of the ring and immediately pinned her to defeat. Rhea Ripley had just defeated Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 40. At this point, Rhea Ripley was making history. Back-to-back WrestleMania victories over two of the greatest female wrestlers of all time. That's not just a successful reign, that's legendary status. And there was only one question on everybody's mind. Who could stop Mami? And then came Liv Morgan. By this point, Rhea Ripley had torn through almost every major name in the women's division. She had survived multi-woman matches, crushed former champions, and even taken down legends. But what made Liv Morgan different was that this wasn't just about the title. This was deeply personal. The bad blood between them started all the way back in July 2023. At the time, Liv and Raquel Rodriguez were in the thick of a rivalry with Rhea, and during one particularly brutal attack, Ripley took out Liv with an injury that put her on the shelf for months. It wasn't just a storyline injury either. Liv was legitimately sidelined, forced to watch from the sidelines as Rhea continued her dominant reign. But when Liv returned in January 2024, she wasn't just back to compete, she was back for revenge. From the moment she stepped into that ring, you could see the change in her. This wasn't the same bubbly underdog Liv Morgan that fans had rallied behind for years. No, this was someone different. Someone who had spent months watching Rhea Ripley run the division, waiting for the perfect time to strike back. And strike back she did. The mind games started immediately. Liv wasn't interested in winning a title shot the traditional way. Instead, she made it her mission to get inside Rhea's head. She cost her matches, attacked her backstage, and delivered one of the best promo segments of her career, where she flat out admitted that revenge mattered more to her than the championship.
This is karma at its very finest, and Rhea got exactly what she deserved.
Then came SummerSlam 2024, and it brought the shock of the year with it. Liv Morgan won, and she didn't just win, she won with an assist from Dominic Mysterio. Now that was a twist nobody saw coming. Dominic had been by Rhea's side throughout her entire reign. He was her Dom, her loyal sidekick, her biggest supporter in the Judgment Day. But in the biggest moment of her career, he cost her the title. The moment was surreal. The crowd didn't know how to react. Rhea Ripley, the dominant champion, had just lost the Women's World Championship to Liv because of Dom. It wasn't just a title loss. It was betrayal. And to make things even worse, Rhea suffered a shoulder injury during the match. And just like that, the reign was over. Not because she was pinned clean in the middle of the ring by a dominant challenger, not because she was outperformed in a fair fight, but because of a betrayal and an injury that forced her to vacate the championship only a few months later.
If Ripley swings this chair, the gold is gone.
It wasn't the blaze of glory ending that some fans had expected, but in a way that made it even more compelling. Because now, the story isn't over. Rhea Ripley was forced to sit back and watch as Liv Morgan held her championship. She had to deal with the fact that her closest ally had played a part in her downfall. And most importantly, she had to sit with the knowledge that her reign ended, not because she wasn't the best, but because circumstances outside of her control took it away from her. Rhea Ripley's tenure as Women's World Champion was characterized by her unwavering dominance, compelling storytelling, and the ability to evoke strong reactions from fans and peers alike. Her journey during this period not only elevated her status within WWE, but also contributed significantly to the evolution of the women's division, setting new standards for athleticism and character development in professional wrestling. So, how good was Rhea Ripley's Women's World Championship reign? Honestly, I think it was one of the best we've seen in years. She dominated, she evolved as a character, she had banger matches, and she left the division in a better place than when she found it. So what do you guys think? Was Rhea's reign as good as I discussed in this video, or do you think it could have been better? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more such amazing wrestling content only on Smackverse.